Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the feature race at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, race number 11. It's the Grade 3 Hal's Hope Stakes. We're going a one-turn mile, and you can bet this race and the nice card at Gulfstream. 3 stakes on tap on Saturday. With a new DRF Bets account, you can double your action when you sign up at bets.drf.com. Bet 100, get 100. Here's the field for the Hal's Hope. Again, it's 100 grander. Approximate post time is 4:58. Morning line favorite, the number 3, Breaking Lucky. All he's done in his career is bank $1.1 million, and he's already won at this meet at a mile. Mike, last time out in the Fred Hooper, what happened? Was it simply a case that this horse was spinning his wheels over the sloppy track and then ended up second on class alone?
It kind of looked like that. I don't really know what happened last time. It's not like he had any big excuse in there, but you're right. It felt like he was in a good position. He didn't really hold that position through the turn. They took him to the outside, the top of the stretch, and he was just sort of grinding away there to get back up for second. I guess it was an okay effort. I get his win back in December. That's the race that I'm having a little more trouble with. I mean, the pace, they just weren't going that hard up there. He got a really nice trip in there. He won easily. There was nothing happening behind him in that race. He's a really nice horse. I don't know how I feel about him at a mile. I don't know how I feel about him at a short price in this race. I guess I would use him, but maybe only defensively, Dan.
And I think you're not sure what to make of this time form U.S. pace projector, which has Breaking Lucky expected to make the early lead, albeit with a little bit of pressure from the number 4 Wild Shot, because there is other speed in this race.
Yeah, I don't see this horse making the front in this race. I know that he's shown more positional speed in his last 2 starts, so maybe that's his new style. I don't see how he makes the lead in here.
One of the horses he finished ahead of in the Fred W. Hooper Unbridled One came back to run 3rd in the Campbell at Laurel with a 94 Beyer speed figure. Sitting second on our pace projector is the number 4 Wild Shot. Wild Shot is basically one race in his career that makes him competitive. That was a smashing performance in the 2017 Pat Day Mile. I think it's worth noting that that race came over a wet track, and you have to wonder now, maybe he needs a wet track to do his best.
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean, he did run well in that race. It's interesting because prior to that, he had actually run some good races around 2 turns on the Derby Trail. He just didn't seem like a horse who wanted to go that far. He paid off for them when they did finally cut him back in distance. Since then, I mean, I don't really know what to say about his form then. He hasn't run a good race. His 2 starts since the layoff, to me, he hasn't run well in either of them.
I thought the Copper Bullet race 2 starts back was okay, considering it was such a long layoff and he was pushing the pace throughout. Last time out in the Mr. Prospector, maybe he mid-moved too soon into that fast pace. That race has produced 3 next out winners. Cole Front, of course, coming back to win the Razorback with a 93. The 3rd finisher winning the King Cotton at Oaklawn with a 94. But I'm starting to get a little bit tired of his act, which means he's probably going to win this race. We do have a weird formulator fact for a very good trainer. Rusty Arnold is a phenomenal trainer, but Wild Shot over the past 5 years, 4-year-olds and up, 2 to 4 month layoffs. Rusty 0 for 25.
Yeah, that's not that good. Not having a great meet here either.
Not having a great meet there either, but maybe Wild Shot is a bounce back possibility if the track comes up wet. The 5 is Quip. He is one of several newly turned 4-year-olds in this race. Now, Quip did some good things last year. Won the Tampa Bay Derby, 2nd in the Arkansas Derby. Lots of excuses in the Preakness. A, he was running against the Triple Crown winner Justify. B, I don't think he had to like that sloppy track at all. Now, after that race, they were planning on running him in the Matt Winn at Churchill Downs. Then they were going to run him in the Indiana Derby. Didn't show up in any of those races. And now he's returning off a really lengthy layoff in a 1-turn mile. Do you think he's going to be fully cranked for this one?
I don't know. We'll see.
Does he need to be?
I think he does need to be. I mean, it's not a great field, but he's not just going to show up with the races he was running last year and beat this field, I don't think. So we'll see if he's ready to go off the lay. If he's got enough speed, he should be able to pull the right trip in this race. You know, maybe he wants to go a little bit longer than this, and this is just a starting off point. Personally, I feel like if he's around the morning line, I don't know how they're going to bet this race, but if he's 4 to 1, I don't want him. He's all yours. But if he drifts up from there, he's an interesting horse.
Another horse coming off a layoff is Tale of Silence. This is a 294-day layoff for a horse that in his last start won a Grade 3, the Westchester at Belmont, usually a prep for the prestigious Metropolitan Handicap. That race was as blanket of a finish as you're going to get. I don't think it was the strongest edition of the Westchester. No. Listen, Tale of Silence is always the kind of horse that's playable at 12 to 1. He's a horse that is able to hit the board in these big races occasionally. I need to see one off almost a 300-day layoff.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if he is a big price in this race, though, you could do worse than him. He's run plenty of races to make him a contender here. I think the 1-turn mile is actually good for him. You know, that Westchester, you know, aside from it just being a 4-horse photo on the wire in there, He also got a wicked pace to close it. He was way out of it. He closed it down at the end. I mean, everything went perfectly for him in there, but he's a contender in this race if he's a good price.
Can't knock Sir Anthony at 20-1. All he's done is win 4 races in a row. He took down a nice scalp in Audible in his most recent race, the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday, and he overcame a very slow pace to do it. He came from last, but while Audible was extremely wide trying to come from off of the pace, Sir Anthony saved every inch of ground, and that might have made all of the difference.
Yeah, it probably did. I mean, if you're going to continue on in graded stakes with him, you might as well do it while he keeps winning races. I don't like him in this race, but if he catches a wet track, I guess you can move him up.
Todd Pletcher has a couple in here. Let's talk about the returning Prince Lucky, who hasn't been seen since Belmont Stakes Day when he won the Easy Goer Stakes for 3-year-olds on the undercard. I like the guts he displayed in that race. He was in between horses on the turn, and it was a dogfight from the quarter pole all the way down to the wire. He was bumped several times by the eventual runner-up Rugby Man, and he showed no quit whatsoever. Now, after that race, the plan was the Curlin at Saratoga. The plan was the Smarty Jones at Parks. He didn't show up for any of those races, but I think that might be a blessing in disguise because I think he's a better one-turn horse.
I know, and you're right about that too. I think that was the point you made, if you have to go all the way back to last year, but that was the point you made when we talked about the Easy Goer, that was the right spot from around one turn. You were correct. He was a big price, and he prevailed. It was a very game performance. I'll be very interested to see what we get from him off this long layoff. I know you sent in a formulator stat. Pletcher's great with horses like this, so I'm expecting him to show up and run his race.
This is a very specific formulator fact for Todd. Over the past 4 years with horses 4-year-olds and older, last out winners coming back in dirt routes off a 6-month layoff, 44% winners, 238 ROI. You mentioned to me when we were talking before the race, Pletcher off 6-month layoffs or more coming back in dirt routes is just a remarkable number.
It's just a huge number. You can go look it up in Formulator. I mean, he has these horses ready to go.
Let's talk a little bit about the number 2 Fellowship. He's one of your favorites, and he always seems to show up with a good, honest effort. We both like him at the one-turn configuration. Maybe he needs slightly shorter, and maybe he needs a little bit of pace, but you know he's going to come with a good, solid effort. I thought he ran well last time out over a sloppy track, finishing behind Breaking Lucky. He just kind of needs his best to win this.
Yeah, I mean, he did his best in that race too. He just wasn't quite good enough. You know, the wet track isn't really a detriment to him either, so you can't use that excuse. It just sort of feels like against the really good graded stakes horses, he's just in a little too tough. I don't think these are the really good graded stakes horses. He might be able to get a piece of this. Doesn't hurt to pick up IRAD either, but it just feels like these races are a little too tough.
And I think a similar case could be made for the number 6, Mr. Jordan, who's won 10 times in his career, $800,000. He's as honest as the day is long, but he disappointed last time out in the Sunshine Millions Classic. I know the 4th place horse came back to win with an 87 buyer, and he still has this albatross hanging around his neck. He's won for 18 lifetime at Gulfstream.
Yeah, and he, you know, that's to me the reason for that is he's just a better 2-turn rider.
Absolutely.
He's not a good 1-turn rider. He doesn't have the kind of speed. He doesn't play in these shorter races. He's a really nice horse. His best races do feel like they're behind him, though.
So we take a look at our top selections for this race. It's quite simple to say, in Todd we trust. I mentioned all of Prince Lucky's attributes. He is going to have to deal with a layoff, however. He is 8-1 on the morning line. You're going with Coppertown, the 7, 6-1. When Coppertown began his career, boy, there was a lot of buzz. He humbled Pattern Recognition, who turned out to be a really nice horse. And unfortunately, he then missed a year. And he came back and there was no rust whatsoever. What happened in his last 2 starts? Because to me, it looks like this horse has just forgotten what the starting gate's about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, maybe he doesn't want to run anymore. I'll make the caveat
he's got
with this horse that he's got to be at least a 6-1 on the morning line if you're going to play him. And if he's a shorter price than that, just stay away from this horse because you don't want a short price on him. But I feel like there's a chance that he does drift. And listen, if he doesn't want to do it anymore, it's not going to matter. I'm going to give him the wet track excuse last time. He was awful in the Hooper last time. He did not run well. I didn't think his Cigar Mile, all things considered, was terrible. He didn't break in that race. He was never able to get in any kind of position. And after about 3 furlongs, Javier was just like, you know what, I'm just going to launch him. And he just sent him up there wide around the turn. He got tired in the stretch. I thought his return at Keeneland was actually a decent effort that showed he could still run. So I'm willing to give him one more chance if he's a price in this race. If he's not, I won't touch him. If he's 6-1 or better, I'll take a shot. If he can't run anymore, take him back to the barn, give him the rake, and maybe retire him. I got to give this horse one more chance. I want Javier
Right on the
sending
front.
this horse to the lead.
His best races have come when he's on the lead. I think that Breaking Lucky would be more than happy to give him the lead, considering this horse's current form, saying, listen, I might just be better than this horse. And at Gulfstream, if Coppertown is in front turning into the stretch at a price, he's got a big shot.
He does. I think he does. And we'll see if he can still run. I guess the one thing that I would worry about with Breaking Lucky is if he's a speed now. Saez isn't the kind of guy who's conceding anything. Saez wants to be forward when he rides his horses, so if he's going to be on a dead scent here, I guess it could make it tougher for Coppertown, but he's supposed to be faster than Breaking Lucky.
But we both like Pletcher in here. You're going 7-9-3-1. I'm going 9-1-3-2 in the Grade 3 Hal's Hope. It's one of 3 stakes races at beautiful Gulfstream on Saturday. Bet them all with a DRF Bets account. Double your action with DRF Bets. Ready, set, bet. Approximate post time for the Hal's Hope, 4:58 Eastern. Best of luck.